I've got a confession to make. I've made a lot of Spider-Man and MCU nerd comic book type of content in the past, but I've actually haven't read a lot of comic books in the past. I've read some here and there, but I found the whole task really daunting, trying to get into different comic books. And there's different universes. There's the Ultimate Universe, there's the 616 mainline, there's the What If, there's the Elseworlds, there's all this different stuff. I felt like I never found a place to jump into and I was super interested in, so I just didn't read anything. Unless I saw a certain issue that seemed pretty cool or important, I just never really got interested in it. I've watched comic book YouTubers like Comic Historian and many others in the past, but I've never actually, besides those books right there that are just a collection of different superheroes or superhero teams, I haven't read a lot of comic books in the past, as much as it might pain me to say it and admit on the internet as a superhero type of YouTuber that I make videos about. Earlier this year in 2024, John Hickman started his own Ultimate Spider-Man run, and at first I thought it looked pretty interesting. Starting Peter Parker as a new take on the character in his 30s or 40s, I thought, okay, this might be something interesting, but I never picked it up. Well, a few days ago, issue 10 just dropped, and I've seen so many things in the past coming months about how awesome this series is, but I just never picked up a comic book. So today, I'm going to go through the task of reading not only the first 10 issues of John Hickman's Spider-Man from 2024, the new Ultimate Spider-Man run, I'm also going to do a deep dive into the Ultimate Universe and the Ultimate Invasion comics that lead up to the story of Ultimate Spider-Man in 2024. Now, this video is mainly just going to be a recap of the first 10 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man and my thoughts on them as a fan of comic books, but not someone who has read a lot of comic books. And I love Spider-Man and superheroes as a whole, but I have not read any of these comics or a lot of comics in general. So this video is just going to be my thoughts and a recap on the first 10 issues. And then I'm very briefly, before we get into all of that, going to touch upon Ultimate Invasion, the 4-issue run, and Ultimate Universe, the one-shot. And I know there's stuff like the Ultimates in this universe and the Black Panther, the X-Men run, and the Wolverine run just got announced. I'm not going to go into all of that. I'm just briefly going to touch upon Ultimate Invasion, Ultimate Universe, and then the first 10 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man. And if this video does well and you guys want to see more, then I'll deep dive into all of that, plus the Black Panther and the X-Men and the Ultimates run and everything like that. But this video is just going to be based upon Spider-Man, because I know that's what you guys have been asking for. So if that sounds interesting, please leave a like. Let me know you guys' thoughts on the video below. And without further ado, let's just get right into it. I am back almost a day and a half later. Now we are caught up present day in October, and I am a fan. I am so locked in. I love all of this. Let's just get right into it and break it all down. So the series starts off on 616 Earth with Reed Richards from a different universe, the old Ultimate Universe. This Reed Richards is now in jail, and he's hellbent on getting out of this universe and going to another one. Long story short, he hires a team that breaks him out of jail. The 616 Illuminati tries to stop this version of Reed Richards from escaping their universe and going to another one, but they fail. At the end of issue 1, we see Reed Richards break through the portal and go into another universe, which is now where this story is taking place from here on out in the new Ultimate Marvel Universe. At the end of issue 1, we see Reed Richards preventing a bunch of young heroes from gaining their superpowers and stepping into the role that we normally know them as. In the last page of issue 1, we see a young Peter Parker at 15 years old about to be bit by the famous spider that gives him his superpowers, but Reed Richards comes in and takes that spider and puts it in a test tube and prevents Spider-Man from getting bit. Flash forward to issue 2, we see Howard Stark as this universe's Iron Man. Reed is holding up a meeting of the minds in this new Ultimate timeline, this new Ultimate Earth, and he has what is basically his Illuminati, the Council of Reed, if we'll call it for now. And he's got all these different heroes, and they're talking about what their plans are going to do. Then out of nowhere, a team of suicide bombers with multiple different kinds of Captain America, Thor, Visions, Wasp, and Giant Mans come in through a portal and try to kill the Maker, which is this version of Reed. And that he is trying to rewrite the future and stopping certain events from taking place in order to cause certain people's futures and stories from ever happening, therefore preventing these characters from getting their powers and erasing the memories of what is originally their past and not allowing them to fulfill their futures like they normally do on other Earths. After exposition dumping to Howard, the Maker tells him that he wants Howard to help him with his defected time machine because Howard is actually the one that built this time machine. Then in issue 3, this is more of a slower issue, it deals with Howard meeting the Maker and the Illuminati on his Earth. Think of it as like the Dark Avengers or the Evil Avengers. These aren't necessarily our Avengers, but they're different people, like a different wannabe Hulk. We've got Colossus, we've got Captain Britain, all these different people on the Maker's Illuminati, and they all explain to Reed that they cause these natural disasters. So when the public looks at the disasters, they can conquer the land the public isn't actively looking on. And they're doing this every few years to remake the world. Howard explains all of this to a young Tony, a Tony Stark in around his 20s, and Tony says how he wants to help Howard fight all of these people on the Maker's Illuminati and take them down. Later on, the Maker tells Howard that he will work with this universe's version of Reed Richards, because the Maker is a Reed Richards from 2 other universes, not the 616 and not this new Ultimates. The Maker is a Reed Richards from 2 other universes. The Maker tells him that Howard will be working with this version of the Reed Richards that we have in this universe to rebuild the time machine thingamabob, the Immortus engine that he told him about at the end of issue 2. Then at the end of issue 3, we see far into the future that Kang is actually the one responsible for sending that suicide bomber team of all those different heroes that came in at the end of issue 1. And he is the one in charge at the end of time over this hero team, and they're trying to stop and kill the Maker. At the very end, he says it's Kang time, and then the issue ends. In episode 4, the last issue in this miniseries, we see Howard in this version of Reed Richards who has a mask on his face and looks like Doctor Doom. They fix the time machine, and Howard finds out that Reed has been in this prison this whole time, and he doesn't know how long it's been because there's been a lack of time, and the Maker has been changing and messing with Reed, just torturing him. When Kang and his suicide bomber team of Captain America, Thor, Vision, Wasp, and these multiples of these characters come into what is called the city, which is where all this is taking place. Think of it as the Maker's safe haven, right? When Kang and his team come in here, they actually end up killing Howard Stark, and Reed takes off to go see Tony in present day. The evil Illuminati finds out that the Maker's city will actually open up in 2 years, and then they're going to discuss what this means and what they're going to do in the meantime. Who's going to take over America now that Howard Stark is dead? In a Flashpoint-style story, we see Reed Richards go to a young Tony Stark and give him the time machine that Howard actually made, along with a handwritten letter from Howard to Tony. Reed helps this young Tony build an Iron Man suit, to which Tony calls himself Iron Lad. Reed and Iron Man vow to go fix the wrongs that the Maker had stopped from ever happening, and on the last page of this issue, they find a frozen Captain America, vowing to de-thaw him and take down the Maker. Very quickly, I want to go over the one-shot that we have of the Ultimate Universe, which sets everything up for Ultimate Spider-Man, and then I'll give my thoughts of the setup as a whole after these notes. So in this one-shot, we see Iron Lad, which is Tony Stark's Iron Man in this universe. Iron Lad and Doctor Doom break out Thor from his prison all the way in Asgard. Thor fights Lady Sif and ends up getting Mjolnir back. As Thor blasts his way to Earth with a Bifrost, Sif comes through the portal. While debating to go get Captain America out of ice and de-thaw him, this good Doctor Doom, which is Reed Richards, says that it might trigger a firewall or tip off the Maker or even kill Captain America. So Thor promises to get Captain America out of the ice eventually, but right now they're going to wait. The team go to recover some artifacts that will actually give the heroes in this universe their powers and give them a chance to become the heroes that they were originally meant to be. While there, the team gets attacked from Captain Britain and escapes with only one thing, a test tube with the spider inside that the Maker stopped Peter Parker from getting bit by. Captain Britain reports back to the said evil Illuminati and reports that the Ultimates attacked them. Hulk then uses one of Howard Stark's satellites to terrorist attack New York and blow up the city, and all of this attack is now blamed on Tony because his name was attached to the satellite. At the end of the issue, we see a news coverage the next day, and it shows the names of many affected by the blast and that are presumed to be dead or missing. The most notable names among this list are May Parker, Emily, and Norman Osborn. Then lastly, at the end of the issue, it hints with an Ultimate Black Panther and a new Ultimate X-Men run, along with Ultimate Spider-Man, which is what we're all here for. So, what do I think of this? I think this is awesome. I'll touch on this more at the end after I recap all 10 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man, but one problem I've had with the most recent media, especially regarding superheroes that are so well known, like Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, X-Men, Avengers, stuff like that, is, at least in my opinion, after doing the whole tier list, which if you've been around for the channel for a while, you know I've said this multiple times, I watched and ranked every animated Spider-Man TV show, and towards the end of that, it felt like a chore, because there was not a lot different from each series as it went on. Peter Parker's Spider-Man was always in high school, he always had the same group of friends and all the characters around him, and yes, it's interesting, we all love that version of Peter Parker, but it got a little stale in my opinion at the end. And as I prefaced at the beginning of this video, I haven't actually read a lot of comics, so I've read a few of the original Spider-Man comics, but a lot of my Spider-Man media and intake comes from movies, TV shows, and YouTube videos like this where people are talking about other comics. So going into this, I was a little hesitant, but this whole Ultimate Universe setup is perfect in my opinion. We're taking pre-existing characters like Tony Stark, who's normally in continuity-wise in his like 40s to 50s, I believe, and now he's a 20-year-old man. There's all these different versions of characters with a twist on them, and it reminds me of the new Absolute run that DC is doing, which I haven't read, but I am very interested in reading after reading all of this. But you see things like Reed Richards, who is Doctor Doom in this universe, but is a good guy. Thor never became Thor. He was always imprisoned, and Loki was the king of Asgard. Captain America never got de-thawed. This is what Marvel's What If could be if done better and with a better twist on it as well. I love this setup, and I will just let you know, these 10 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man are so good because it takes pre-existing characters like J. Jonah Jameson and makes him like a grumpy old man, but not in a mean way. Like, he's just kind of a grumpy, lonely old man who's best friends with Ben Parker, who is basically Peter Parker's dad in this universe because Uncle Ben never got off because Spider-Man never became Spider-Man. It is a beautiful setup, and I cannot wait to get in and explain and recap and review Ultimate Spider-Man issues 1 through 10. So without further ado, let's just do that right now because, I mean, as you can see, I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, and this was awesome. I read all 10 issues, this one shot, and then Ultimate Invasions 1 through 4 within like 24 hours. I was locked in on a Friday night reading Spider-Man comics because I love it, and if you're anything like me and you're watching this video, I hope you guys love it too. So if you haven't read these before, I highly recommend it, but let's just get into it real quick and then I'll give my further thoughts at the end of the video. Right out the gate, issue 1 starts with an older 35-year-old Peter Parker who does not have any superpowers. He's married to MJ and he has 2 kids, and I absolutely love this. J. Jonah Jameson is the same old JJ that we know. He's rude, but he has a heart of gold. There's a bittersweet interaction where at the beginning of the episode, they're going to the funeral of May Parker, and Peter Parker doesn't have a tie, but J. Jonah Jameson knows how important this is for Peter and offers to give him his tie and puts on the tie for him. This isn't the usual J. Jonah Jameson that we know. It's a take on the character, and like you'll see throughout the rest of the video, a lot of these characters have a twist on them, and I think they have all been done perfectly. We then see Ben Parker, Peter Parker's uncle, who works at the Daily Bugle with both J. Jonah Jameson and Peter, and I think this is very interesting. The Parkers then go attend a mass funeral for the attack that was all blamed on Tony Stark. We see Matt Murdock is a priest there, and I'm guessing he doesn't have any superpowers in this universe. Harry gives a speech too, and at the end of the speech there's hints of cynicism and anger. We then see that the Daily Bugle is now under new management, and the board says that they need to change up their style and how they cover things. J. Jonah Jameson instantly quit, and Ben Parker is offered the head chief staff, but then he walks out as well, joining J. Jonah Jameson. Fisk seems to be the one over the board, and this J. Jonah Jameson seems more of a nicer person and not as heavy on the hit pieces towards characters like Spider-Man or anyone. He seems to be after true journalism. Right after that, we see a man in a green suit of armor blow up Wilson Fisk's car, who we know to be the Green Goblin. J. Jonah Jameson, who I'm just going to refer to as JJ for the rest of this video, and Ben Parker set out to start their own news organization. Peter then reaches out to Ben and is really upset and depressed and says that he feels like he's just missing something and that his whole life he hasn't been living up to his full potential. And Ben gives him a dad talk and tells him that inaction is action and that Peter needs to wake up and do better. MJ and Peter talk about how she says that he's been feeling desperate and he's not been feeling like he's enough for the family for a while now, but that she will be with him no matter what and will do everything she can to help him get over this slump that he is in. After MJ goes to bed, Peter randomly gets a box and a hologram pops out, and it's Tony Stark inside of the hologram. And Tony explains to Peter that 6 months from now, Tony Stark will be back from the future and explaining everything that's happened. But in the meantime, he needs to take control of his own destiny. An inspiring montage of Ben and MJ go off inside of Peter's head and says that this is what he wants. He wants this future that Tony is offering him. And this looks so cool, and I am so locked in with this. Peter then opens the box and sees the test tube with the said spider from the previous issues. He chooses to get bit by the spider, and then instantly he gets his all-new black suit. At the end of issue 1, Peter Parker's got his family, he's got Uncle Ben, he's got J. Jonah Jameson, he's got a job, he's doing well for himself, and now he just got spider powers. This is awesome. Let's just go straight into issue 2. Issue 2 starts off with Peter 1 month from having his superpowers in this simple all-black suit. Jameson and Ben, they're just old man friends, and they're talking about this green guy that was spotted on the glider that's been taking multiple attempts at Fisk's life, but the Daily Bugle for some reason won't report it. It's also noted that Peter is instantly selling pictures of this black suit Spider-Man who's not called Spider-Man yet, but he's instantly taking pictures and selling it to the Bugle, which is hilarious. As Peter's swinging through the city, he's talking to himself saying he feels like he's 20 years late and he's behind the curve because he should have been a hero way long ago, but he doesn't know what to do and he feels like he needs to work double overtime to get into the position that he's supposed to be in now as an adult. Peter then sees the Shocker on a rooftop and tries to stop him, but ends up getting tricked, falling off the building and failing. Peter comes home and May realizes that Peter is actually the guy in the black suit that's on the news. They argue between themselves and agree to keep it a secret between the two of them. No one else knows, not even MJ or his son. Peter then, at the end of the episode, tries to take down Shocker, but loses again. I like how this version of Peter in Spider-Man isn't winning. There's a lot of different versions of Spider-Man that I've seen where as soon as he gets powers, like 2 days later, he's the Spider-Man and taking down the Sinister Six and all this stuff. This guy fought Shocker twice and lost twice. I love that. I love that there's like a natural progression of things. He doesn't have a handle on all of this just right away. At the end of issue 2, May draws the Spider-Man logo that is going to be on his chest. And oh, as a father, I'm not a father, but as a father, that's awesome. That's so cool to have your daughter drawing your iconic Spider-Man logo. I love that so much. With issue 3, we see Peter and May are changing Spider-Man's suit into different colors. I love it. There's interesting colors that can happen here. With this suit, it's not nanotech, but think of it like nanotech, where it can just change its design, kind of like how Captain Marvel's was in the MCU. And they choose to go with the iconic red and blue. Peter then visits Ben and Jameson at their new office, and they talk about how this new Green Goblin guy is flying around the city, but is only bombing Fisk-related buildings. Peter decides to stake him out. After painstakingly waiting out and trying to catch the Green Goblin, Spider-Man catches the Green Goblin and Bullseye fighting each other. He ends up saving the Green Goblin's life, and they talk about how Fisk basically owns the police and is a kingpin of New York. Green Goblin connects somehow to Spider-Man's suit and dissolves his mask instantly like nanotech, how Iron Man does. Green Goblin then takes off his mask, and of course, we all saw it coming, the Green Goblin is Harry in this universe because Norman is dead. They introduce themselves to each other and agree to go get a drink. In this universe, Peter and Harry, they've never met before, so the first time they're meeting is when they're the Green Goblin and Spider-Man, and I think that's awesome. This is a very unique origin story for the friendship of Peter and Harry, and I'm here for it. I'm definitely going to think that there's going to be problems in the future because the Green Goblin and the Osborns can never be trusted, but for right now, they seem to be on the same plan. Harry, as the Green Goblin, is bombing a bunch of Fisk stuff because he doesn't like that Fisk basically got his parents killed, which we'll get to in the future. And Spider-Man is just trying to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, so he teams up with Harry. I think this is awesome. Let's go to issue 4. 1 month later in April, Peter and MJ meet Harry and his wife Gwen Stacy for dinner. Yep, Harry and Gwen are married. This whole episode is like 26 pages of them just having dinner and talking, so it's very dialogue driven, but what they say is very interesting. Gwen says she wants kids. Harry says he's reluctant because of how the world is changing. They explain that MJ started a new PR firm and reveals that her new client is actually Ben and JJ, and that they've got an online-only exclusive news outlet called The Paper. Gwen Stacy says that this Spider-Man guy, she refers to him as like a guy in a suit because he's not called Spider-Man yet, is doing good and someone needs to cover it, and this is how she thinks the Paper will actually succeed against the Daily Bugle. She mentions how Peter could give some of his photos to them for free since it's his uncle who's running it. Gwen then tells MJ that Oscorp actually bought out Stain Stark Industries. It's Obadiah Stane and Howard Stark. They made one industry. Just think of it as Stark Industries, essentially. Harry then reveals to Peter when the girls are in the bathroom that he's told Gwen everything, and that he notices how Peter has not told MJ that he's the man in the suit, or Spider-Man. In a very Lex Luthor-like monologue, Harry tells Peter that it's on them to actually save the world because of his suit and what Peter can do with his abilities. They need to take the world into their own hands. Then Harry gives Peter the "with great power comes great responsibility" speech, and it's very sinister, and I'm just saying this now. I thought in issue 4 that Harry was going to be evil, and we'll get to where he gets to in the future, but I love how he was the one to give the speech. It's a very twisted take on "with great power comes great responsibility," because that's a very sweet and nice thing for people to grow up and know and just hear. But if you take it from a sinister angle, that's very interesting is all I'll say. Harry then says that he knows where this leads to, and them as the little guys need to take down the whole system, especially Wilson Fisk. Issue 4 ends with Peter and MJ walking on the street after dinner, explaining how they both agree that Harry and Gwen are nice, but scary and intense. With issue 5 starting, the issue actually opens up 1 month before the incident that took place, and we watch Norman Osborn talking to Harry Osborn on the phone, and he's scolding him for not being on time to this important event that they're at Oscorp Industries. We then see the laser beam that the Hulk shot from the Stark satellite impacting the building in New York City and killing everyone that we saw before. We then flash forward a few weeks later to see Harry and Gwen meet with Norman's attorney. The attorney explains that now Harry and Gwen are now getting everything that Norman left behind, including Oscorp. Harry and Gwen are now both co-CEOs of Oscorp. Harry then meets with the Kingpin after the Kingpin basically summons Harry and says how he is selling the Stain Stark Industries to Harry, and he just has to do nothing but just own the title. Harry and Gwen, not knowing what to do, willingly accept that offer. We then see Harry, Gwen, and Otto Octave take over all of the Stark stuff, including the suits that he left behind. Otto then starts building his Green Goblin suit that's basically just an Iron Man suit, but with fresh paint, and it's a green suit. And instead of flying, for some reason, he has to be on the glider, which is a cool workaround. With Harry and Otto having access to all of Howard Stark's tech and data, they're able to locate all of the techs that are on the same server. Seeing when tech activates, like the one that Peter got from Tony, they decide to investigate it when the new one pops up. Shocker originally took the gauntlets from somebody that Tony sent it to. Maybe I'm dense, but I have no idea who was in this chair when this guy died, but Shocker just broke into the guy's house and has the gauntlets. Fast forward to when Harry and Peter meet for the first time. That's how he is able to unlock Spider-Man's suit and take off his mask, because Harry actually has access to it because they're on the same Stark server. Harry and Peter are then getting drinks for the first time, and Peter is very quick to see that Harry obviously has an agenda, asking about Peter's wife, what he does for work, and basically and all of this just right after forcing Peter's mask off. Peter's guard is up, and it's very noticeable. I have changed my mind on Harry at this point, but I still do not like him. Harry says how he thinks Fisk is behind the attack and that is blamed on Tony, and asks if Peter got a box from Tony. Peter explains everything that happened, and they agree that it's really cool that Peter was supposed to be this hero, and they want to use his abilities and powers to take down all the other bad guys in the city, including Fisk. Harry's basically self-inserting himself into the story to get revenge for his parents' death by using this new Stark tick that he has. And I think that's really cool. He was never going to be a hero, but because he has vengeance for wanting to avenge his father, he is inserting himself into the story in a position of power to do so, which is really, really cool, I have to say. Then at the end of issue 5, where we're now in present day in the month of May, and we see that Harry has a prisoner tied up somewhere in Oscorp, if I had to guess, and the prisoner basically says that Harry has no way of taking down the powers at hand, not even Kingpin. Harry then says, "Try me," and he says that he's neither a hero nor a villain, he just wants justice. Halfway through the series so far, with the 10 issues that are currently out at the end of issue 5, there's so much moving parts right now. We have all the Wilson Fisk stuff, all the Maker stuff, Peter Parker getting his Spider-Man powers for the first time, but isn't Spider-Man yet. We have MJ and her PR firm. We have Fisk owning the Daily Bugle, who's only putting out like soft corporate stuff. And then we have J. Jonah Jameson and Ben Parker starting their own news organization called The Paper. There's so much moving on right now, but for some reason, it doesn't feel cluttered. It feels like a natural progression of these events that have already taken place, and I love it. I think the storytelling is so smooth. The writers of this have done such a phenomenal job. Let's just go straight into issue 6. At the beginning of issue 6, Peter comes home with a huge black eye and a bloody face, and he tries to play it off like it's nothing, but then May, his daughter, spills the beans and says that he's the guy in the black suit and that her dad is a superhero. We then have a flashback and cut to the previous night at the Fisk building. Spider-Man and Green Goblin are doing a stakeout and are going to break into Wilson Fisk's building when they know that Fisk is alone. Upon breaking into the building, Fisk says that he owns the police and the street lights and the satellites, and says he has eyes and ears all throughout the city. He knew that they had both been watching them for multiple days and figured they'd break in any time now. Green Goblin, having enough of this conversation, says how he's going to take down Fisk and his boss and throws a table at Green Goblin, and a fight breaks out. Fisk ends up beating the crap out of both Spider-Man and Green Goblin, and then they retreat. We then see Spider-Man's spider sense go off for the first time, and that Fisk has some upgrades. I really like that Fisk has these like tattoos, and it's not revealed what his upgrades are, but in the past, especially in the Daredevil show, Daredevil against Fisk, that's whatever, because Daredevil isn't like superhumanly strong. But in other forms of media, whenever Spider-Man is fighting Fisk, Spider-Man is closer to the Hulk in strength than Captain America. And Fisk, to my knowledge, doesn't have powers. He's just this like fat buff guy. So the fact that they give him like these ultimate upgrades, I think is really, really interesting, and services and how powerful he is as a kingpin throughout the city, but also as a force of nature, as a person himself with actual powers. We then cut back to Peter telling his story, everything that's happened so far. He reveals his powers, he reveals the suit, and he finally reveals the truth to MJ and his kids. They all promise to keep this a secret because they have to for the safety of their own family. The kids then go upstairs, and Peter says he'll answer all of their questions in the morning, but right now he obviously has to talk to MJ about this. When Peter asks MJ if she's upset at him for not telling her about the powers that he has, she says she's 30% scared, 40% impressed, and then maybe other numbers for other things. Peter then shows her his suit and explains how he got powers from that spider and breaks everything down for her. Peter says he needs a code name but doesn't know where to start, and MJ says, "Oh my gosh, is it not obvious? You're Spider-Man," and then takes her out for a swing. I love this story so much. Imagine being in Peter Parker's like shoes. You get bit by this spider that someone sent to you from the future after you feel like you're a waste, you've done nothing right your whole life. Then your daughter starts your Spider-Man logo and builds your suit, like the suit colors for you, and then your hot wife MJ is the one that names you Spider-Man. Bro is living the life. I absolutely love this. All of the name changes and his origin story, I feel like it's more sentimental with MJ and May being the reason for all of these things rather than just Peter doing it himself. There's more at stake here, and in the future, when things ultimately go bad for Peter Parker and Spider-Man, because that's the unfortunate reality of the character, it's going to have this version of Peter as a dad have way more to lose than it would a 15-year-old kid fighting a bad guy. He now has a family. He has the origin of all of this. He was chosen chosen to be Spider-Man. He didn't just become Spider-Man accidentally. He was chosen for a purpose. He's got all this stuff on the line. How is he going to react in the future when things get bad? Well, let's go to issue 7. Issue 7 starts with Spider-Man, Green Goblin, and Otto, and they're in the Oscorp lab. Otto explains that the Green Goblin suit is fully customizable and they own it front to back. He explains both the suits that Spider-Man and Green Goblin have, and that the Green Goblin suit is basically a 1.0 design, capable with an AI interface to help him with combat and brainwaves and all this different stuff. When asked about who he wants to be the AI in his suit, Harry chooses Norman as his AI, and that he wants the suit to talk to him in Norman's voice and act like how Norman would act. As for Spider-Man, his suit is more of a 2.0 model, if you will. Otto takes a sample of the suit and says that he needs more time to work on it. Peter is hesitant about getting an AI overhead in his suit, but then ultimately decides, well, I talked to myself, so just put me in as my AI suit, which I think is a really cool thing because not only in this, as you'll see later, Peter talks to himself out loud, but he also has his own consciousness talking to him through the suit, and it's very meta, and I love it. Jameson and Ben then meet in a parking garage, and they find Robbie Robertson there, and Robbie gives them some insider scoop saying that this won't run at the Daily Bugle because they're censoring all the important news. Robbie says that he wants to be the paper's invisible man and to give them all the stories that they know the Daily Bugle will not publish. Captain Britain then meets with Fisk and offers him some robots that kind of look like Bullseye, and Fisk turns them down. He says that he has 6 plans of his own and will take down Spider-Man and Green Goblin. Otto then turns on Green Goblin and Spider-Man's AI in their new suits while they're sparring. Norman is of course Green Goblin's AI, as I talked about earlier, and interestingly enough, starts telling Harry how he's weak and pathetic and needs to avenge him. I already know this is going to end up badly. Spider-Man's AI just seems to be of himself and his own thoughts in his own head in his suit, which is really cool, and this AI tells Peter how much of a good dad he is. This Norman AI starts telling Harry how to fight, and every time he misses a hit on Spider-Man, he says how pathetic he is and how much of a failure he is. After sparring, Otto says, wait, there's the third Stark suit energy coming in, and then boom, out of nowhere, Costco guy, boom, Iron Lad, Tony Stark, comes in out of nowhere and says, it's been 6 months, are you a hero yet? And that's the end of issue 7. Really briefly, the only notes I kind of have from this is, one, like Tony Stark's back, that's going to be cool, time to like get the ball rolling. But also, I fear that the AI Norman is going to cause Harry, kind of how like the Green Goblin serum sometimes causes Harry or Norman, whoever takes it, to go mentally insane. I feel like down the road, at least at issue 10, this hasn't happened yet, but I feel like Norman being like the evil AI in his head and the contrast with Spider-Man being his own AI, I feel like that's going to cause Harry to kind of go insane in the future and just become more cynical. But that hasn't happened yet as of issue 10, so we'll see. But I just want to put that out there in the universe, put that out there online, that I called it first, if I did call it first, but I did call it. Issue 8 starts, and it's the kid's birthday party, and it's now in August. Peter is about to go pick up a cake and candles when his suit, that's not on him, starts talking to him. Peter asks the suit how he could hear him since he's not wearing the suit, and the black suit in its ball form says that he can do all types of different things. We then flash back to the moment Tony Stark showed back up last month. Tony says that Spider-Man is at the very top of the Maker's list of heroes to prevent. That's why he gave him his new nanotech suit. It's called PRICO Tech. Pricotech? I'm just going to call it nanotech, but it's like the same thing, I feel like. Tony explains that since he was at the top of the list, he was the most important hero to stop, which is why Tony thought that Pyrotech, or the nanotech suit that Howard built, was the last suit, and that Tony can't even replicate it if he tried. It's that advanced. And that was his reasoning on why Spider-Man needs that suit, because if he was at the top of the Maker's list, obviously he's important, so he's going to give the most important guy the most important suit, which is really cool. Tony then says that the Maker's going to come back in a little over a year, and that they need to lock in and they need to get ready. Green Goblin then asks where he was at on the list, and Tony says that you aren't even on the list. Tony then tells Harry that he can keep the suit that he got, even though it's got the Stark tech on it. He's like, you can keep the suit and join the cause because you're friends with this guy, and he's at the top of the list, which is pretty cool. Again, self-inserting himself into the story. I like this younger dynamic that we get between a young Tony and a young, like, Harry Osborn. I've seen in the past in different like TV shows and stuff, I've watched the contrast between like Norman and Tony when Tony's like Norman's age, but the fact that they're both young and kind of immature, I really like that. And they're both so powerful with their wealth and where they're at in this universe. Then we go back to present day and we see at the birthday party that this version of Jameson isn't really evil or mean like he is in other iterations. He's kind of just like a lonely old man. He's a little grumpy, but he bonds with Tony's son Richard and he gives him a book. He says that he wrote this book when he was at his lowest point and explains how he was really lonely at his age and he wants to be there for Peter's son Richard. It's really sweet. He's like a surrogate uncle to Richard at this point, and no one invited Jameson to the birthday party, but he was there just so he could help Peter's son. I don't know. I thought that was really sweet of Jameson, and I like that they're changing things about these pre-existing characters. Ben and Jameson then ask Peter if he wants to join them at the paper, and then Peter respectfully declines, saying that he's got too much going on right now. Then at the very end of the issue, oh my gosh, we get the Sinister Six. I knew where that was going when Fisk, it means the Spider-Man story, but when Fisk was like, I've got 6 contingency plans. We get the Sinister Six, but it's the weirdest Sinister Six I've ever seen. I think it's going to be the Sinister Six because they only introduced 5 characters as the Sinister Six, so maybe Kingpin is going to be the 6th one, or I feel like they're waiting for a reveal for the 6th one. But he says we've got 6 contingency plans, and then he introduces Mr. Negative, Walter Hardy, which is this universe's version of Black Cat, Kraven the Hunter, a brand new designed Mysterio. Well, this guy looks so cool. He looks so menacing. And then Mole Man. Crazy lineup. I know Mole Man from Superhero Squad and that he's a Fantastic Four villain. That's all I know him from. So any Mole Man experts kind of let me know what's going on with him. But I was expecting it to be the Lizard, not Mole Man, because Kingpin said how he's like the king of the underground of the city. I was expecting like an ultimate Lizard, but Mole Man. I'm still locked in. I like the Sinister Six. I love Mysterio, so let's just jump into issue 9. Ben and Jameson meet with MJ at a bar, and all of their stories about Spider-Man are blowing up. That's what's going to get the paper on the map. MJ predicts that in the next 6 months, if the paper keeps this pace, they're going to be way bigger than the Daily Bugle and are going to blow them out of the water. We then cut over to Otto, and he was able to override Harry's suit so that Stark can no longer have access to it. Otto wants to do the same thing to Spider-Man's suit while he studies his old one. Spider-Man then talks to his own self through his AI version in his suit. It's really meta, really cool, and he basically says how he doesn't want Otto to take his suit. He was like, this Stark guy gave me the suit for a reason. I don't want to give it to you. He ends up giving him the suit, but Otto offers him this huge like Iron Spider suit with like the claws and the arms. It's got like rockets. It's a War Machine suit, but Iron Spider with the arms. But Spider-Man's like, whoa man, I just want to be friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. That's a little too much. And he agrees to give Otto the suit, which I think is a bad decision. But he ends up just going with the spandex Kevlar mesh of his regular stuff. So he doesn't have an advanced suit on at the moment. And then it cuts to Peter and Harry, the Green Goblin, going to stakeout, trying to find what to do about this whole Fisk situation while Otto works on trying to override Peter's suit so the Stark doesn't have any access to it. I'm sure that won't go bad at all. While Harry and Peter are out doing their thing, Harry's suit suddenly gets EMP'd out of nowhere by the Walter Hardy Black Cat with a laser beam. While fighting and attacking Spider-Man, Hardy explains that Harry, the Green Goblin, he doesn't know he's Harry, but he says the Green Goblin and Spider-Man, they're not only the prize, but they're also the prey for Kingpin and his army that he sent after him, talking about the Sinister Six. After defeating and webbing up Hardy, Spider-Man gets asked by him, he said, are you going to kill me? And Spider-Man says, no, of course not. We don't do that here. And then out of nowhere, he's like, all right, well, good. And he pulls out a lightsaber and cuts off the webbing. And then the Green Goblin suit reboots right as he pulls out that lightsaber. And he swings it at the webs and tries, and he's about to kill Spider-Man. And then Harry's blasts him with like a unibeam, essentially, and knocks Hardy off the roof of the building, splattering onto the ground. You see blood. He doesn't die, though. Ambulance comes up. They call 911, and they rush him off in an ambulance. And Spider-Man is ticked. He says, Harry, we don't kill people. You almost killed him. And he basically gets scolded by Harry, and Harry says, like, we're fighting these powers at prey here. They're going to kill us if we don't kill them. And Spider-Man's like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to kill. We don't want to do that. And Harry explains to him how everyone else in this world, in this universe, is playing by that rule. They're gonna kill their friends, or they're gonna kill their enemies. And Peter says that he can't kill people, and Harry says that these people killed my parents. They killed your Aunt May. They're gonna kill us. They're not gonna hesitate. And Peter says, like, I understand that. I'm not gonna kill though. And Harry says that, like, that's fine. They agree to disagree. And he says, ultimately, Peter, you're my friend. If anyone's gonna kill you, I will not hesitate to kill them if it means saving your life. And they agree to disagree, and then they say that they're good friends, and they talk about and make jokes their family getting together for Christmas. My final thoughts for issue 9 right before going into the final one, issue 10 currently, is I'm kind of confused why the Sinister Six didn't attack them, and they're doing it like one at a time, I'm guessing, maybe trying to see who can kill them by themselves. But other than that, like, I mean, they sent their weakest member, Black Cat. Other than that, I'm not as worried now about Harry turning on Peter because of how violent he is. I'm more worried about Otto with this new nanopyrotech suit and the AI in Harry's head. Maybe getting the AI of Norman in Otto's suit, turning him evil or something. I don't know. But Harry and Peter, over the 9 months this story has taken place, there hasn't been one instance where Harry's done anything to be rude or like disadvantage Peter. So I'm trusting that they're going to be friends because they're adults and everything. And he almost killed Walter Hardy's black cat to save Peter. So I think at this point, Harry and Peter are good. I'm worried about the Norman AI taking over the suit or influencing Harry and Otto. But other than that, I think we're good. So let's just get into issue 10 and then wrap this video up because this is getting long. Issue 10 starts off with Ben and J. Jonah Jameson venturing out to meet with James Wesley at a golf course. This is the guy who self-authorized the sale of Stain and Stark Industries to different multiple offshore accounts. Just in time for security to escort the two of them out, they ask one final question, but one thing's for sure, Wilson Fisk and James Wesley cannot be trusted. J. Jonah Jameson and Ben go to see the co-CEO of Oscorp, Gwen Stacy. They ask her about the selling and reselling about the Oscorp umbrella during all these other nameless companies. What happened was Stark Industries, Stain Stark Industries, was sold to Oscorp. Kingpin basically authorized that sell, and then they diverged all the assets and data and stuff into these different offshore companies called like a bunch of random stuff. So they're basically untraceable, but each sell takes about 6 months of paperwork to authorize to then become public if that trade happened. And then what happens at the end of that is right before all that gets authorized in public, it gets sold to another Oscorp account and it just trickles down the ladder, so no one knows where these assets are at. That way Gwen Stacy and Harry Osborn can just keep all of the Stark information without the public ever knowing that they actually have it. But Ben and J. Jonah Jameson are uncovering the truth behind all of this, trying to take down the corruption. They tell Gwen and they allege all this has to do with the flying armored Green Goblin guy in the city, and they ask why Oscorp is trying so hard to cover this up. Gwen Stacy then cusses them out of the room and tells them to leave, and she wants money back for helping fund the paper. Then we cut to the Parkers having family dinner, and MJ and Ben discuss the details of the meeting that just happened. Long story short, Ben tells MJ to go ahead and tell Gwen that she's got 1 week to get her assets ready because they're going to publish a story and go public with all of this in 1 week. We then cut over to the paper's office and Harry goes to confront Ben and Jameson. He tells them that whatever their price is, he will pay for them to not publish the story. They tell Harry that they believe the Green Goblin is either him or Gwen, and that they can tell the Stark tech suit is just painted over to become the Green Goblin. Harry then reveals himself to both of them that he's the Green Goblin and tells them to stop their story or else, threatening their lives. Ben then says that he doesn't care who the Green Goblin is. He's not trying to come out and publicly tell everyone who the Green Goblin is. All he cares about is why Fisk authorized the purchasing of Oscorp and buying Stark and Stain Industries, and that the Green Goblin is using the same tech from the Stark Industries to kill Fisk. Why is Fisk authorizing the sale of all this if the Green Goblin, using the Stark tech that he got from Fisk, is using that tech to try and kill Fisk? That's what the story is, not who the Green Goblin is. Harry, then realizing their intentions, gives them a flash drive and says this is the rabbit hole about the Maker and everything us, the audience, knows so far. This is the truth behind everything. Harry warns the two men about the severity of this story and to be careful because there's no mask whenever you publish stuff. It's all through the name of the publisher and the writer. And to be careful because this is some serious stuff that runs deep. Later, in the last few frames of the issue, we see that Ben and Jameson are looking over their final draft of the story that they're about to publish. After a few typo errors, they publish the story under a new anonymous newsman under the alias of Ben Reilly, which if you're a Spider-Man fan, you already know who that is. It's just a made-up name to introduce this one-off clone of Peter Parker or whatever. Nothing to do with the story, but it's really cool they brought it into this story. And then on the last shot of issue 10, the last thing we're caught up with until present day, the headline reads as follows: New York's Kingpin. Wilson Fisk runs New York, ... But who runs Wilson Fisk? I've been yapping for so much, my camera's about to die again, but this story is awesome. I love how it takes the pre-existing notion of these characters that we've seen through different Spider-Man iterations in media, and they're all twisted. Peter doesn't become Spider-Man until he's 35. MJ's not being an actor, she's being a publicist. There's Mayday Parker, there's Richard Parker as Spider-Man's son. Ben Parker's alive, May Parker's dead. JJ's a bittersweet old man with a soft spot. He's not like a tyrant at the Daily Bugle. The Daily Bugle is kind of non-existent in this story because it's run by Kingpin. There's the Maker who's taking his counsel and having Kingpin run New York City while the Sinister Six are below Kingpin instead of someone normally who it's like Otto Octavius. Harry is the Green Goblin, but he's not evil. He's using it to fight on side with Spider-Man. Tony Stark is young. He's time traveling. Oh, this story is awesome. And it's the writing, the character development, everything in this story is awesome. And I cannot recommend this story enough. I read 10 issues in about a day. It took me about 20 minutes to read. If you are a fan of Spider-Man, or you're someone like me who's a fan of these characters and a fan of comic book and superhero characters, but you feel like everything has been so stale with the recent iteration of these characters, this is a brand new, fresh take, not only on Spider-Man characters, but on the Marvel Universe as a whole, and I love that. After I post this video and edit it, I'm probably gonna go read the Ultimates, because I think there's like 5 issues out right now, and it's like the Ultimates are the Avengers of this universe, and it's very concise. I looked online before recording, and there's only 12 issues that John Hickman, the writer, is contracted for. I hope it doesn't end after 12 issues, because I should have just waited till the other 2 issues came out to make this video, but also because this is such a great story, and they can't wrap it up in just 2 more issues. So I really hope this gets renewed for another one. Support your local comic shops, support the story as a whole, support the universe. Like this video if you like the video. I really like this. I hope you guys enjoy this video. It's a little different. I love just trying new things on the channel. I've been doing commentary videos in the past. Now I'm reviewing comics. I guess that's what I do now. I review movies, I review TV shows and stuff. So if you like this type of video, let me know. I'll definitely make more in the future and make a continuation of the story. If you want to see me review and read the same way I did this, or even in a different way for the Ultimates or the Black Panther and X-Men run, let me know. I love making these types of videos. I love indulging myself in this type of content. So if you like the video, please like the video. It just lets me know you guys like the media I'm making, and I'll keep making more because of it. Got a new Halloween commentary coming out within the next week as well. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys are doing well. Let me know your thoughts on the video, and as always guys, take care and thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.